Hey guys, welcome into your newest commitment impact video brought to you by Go Lopes Radio. Today we are talking all things Nana Owusu-Anane. He commits to the Lopes yesterday after being committed to SMU for about a month or so. Obviously had his visit with GCU. I think it was about late February. GCU had a home game and he stayed and attended that. And he eventually committed to SMU, backs off that, and now comes to Phoenix. GCU gets probably their best portal get they'll get this year, and a massive piece to their front court. So again, we did a video when Nana visited the Lopes a little bit ago, and there's going to be some similarities between that video and this one. Too exciting of a day though not to do a commitment impact video for Nana, and just kind of where he fits in and what he brings to the table, and I want to go over all that again. So okay, let's talk about Nana. So before we get to on court, and we're going to talk off court. When we did the previous video, it was full of cliches, the whole thing. Guys, I mean, there's just no other way to put this. Really special kid, a lot of the intangibles and kind of the other stuff that really matters to the staff, and yeah, it just and lines so well with GCU and the university. So Nana's from Burlington, Ontario, just south of Toronto. So he is from Canada. Spent the previous 4 seasons with Brown University. Now he only played 3 of those. And why I say 4 is because, again, he enters the portal. He could have, I don't know, he could have done whatever the heck he wanted, done solo trainings, found an NBA trainer, spend a ton of time with him, changed his game, any of that stuff. Instead, he stays with the team, travels with the team, and participated with the team, which is really cool. Doesn't play, so he doesn't burn that 4th year, and he'll be spending that last year with the Lopes. Again, plays at Brown. 2 years ago, his stats, 15, 9, and 2. He shot 47, 31, and 68. Again, 47 being the field, 31 being 3, 68 being free throw. He threw in a block and a steal, and the Brown Bears that year were ranked 191st in KenPom. Okay, Nana went to Putnam Science Academy for high school, and this is a unique sort of high school, something we have to call out here, because it's an all-boys Catholic school with an emphasis on bringing in international and international students of multicultural backgrounds. So it's a little bit of a melting pot of a high school, and they really invest in their basketball. So he was playing really high-level basketball up in the Northeast during high school, which is really important. We've talked about some of the guys that GCU's already had committed, some of them from Southern California, playing against the best competition, some of the best competition in the nation in high school. And again, you just set that tone from high school when you're playing the highest level. There's only one way. You can't hide. You can't go play a bad team. And I think that's the same situation with Nana. Incredible student off the court. I know, again, it sounds cliche and annoying, but, prestigious academic high school, a prestigious university, Brown, and was a captain at Brown for a few years. And this staff, again, just loves those intangibles and those qualities he brings to the table. So now let's talk a little bit of hoops. He is 6'8", 220, a very strong player. And here's a reality. At his height, 6'8", for what he does, his position, he is a tweener. We talked about this again in the last video, but when you're a tweener, it just changes things a little bit in how you play. Here's the good news with him, though, is because he's a tweener, he's had to kind of learn to do things differently. So he's had to rely on a lot of footwork. He's had to rely a lot on spacing and using his body and using the rim when he's using the rim as a defender when he's around the rim, to protect the ball. So all those little things that you have to learn, where maybe if you were 6'10" and a crazy athlete, you could just go up there and dunk it every time. You're not learning those things. He's really had to find his way, use his strength, use his footwork, all that sort of stuff, and which is really important, and you'll see that in his game. And he's not a modern big guy by any means. I wouldn't say that. He's more of your kind of old school guy, not necessarily like an old school back to the basket guy, but just a old school in a sense where he's not a guy who wants to spend a ton of time out on the 3-point line. He will get out there, space it. He will shoot it a little bit. He shot 2 a game in his last season that he played. But again, not a high volume 3-point shooter, so he's not just standing around the perimeter. He wants to get to the rim. That's who he is. And he'll kind of do whatever it takes to get to the rim. So really like that. I love his self-awareness. That's kind of my favorite trait that we called out in the last video. I think just because, again, he knows he's not this stretch four. It's going to come down and take a ton of threes. He's just getting in the paint and he's being disruptive, knows his spots, isn't going to try to do anything crazy. isn't going to hold the ball up top and ISO and try to get to there. He just, makes the right basketball play and isn't going to just hold the ball. So I really, really love the self-awareness with him from that 4 spot. So off the bounce, controlled. A lot of guys like him can be super erratic. We talked about, I just mentioned that, how unique it is. He's again not going to just do all this crazy stuff with the ball, but everything's going to have purpose, I think, with him, right? He's not going to just drive around and dribble the ball. It's with purpose. He can do DHOs. He can do kind of, he can handle the ball in that sense. I wouldn't call him a crazy ball handler again, or this like point forward who's just dishing the ball out. He's a fine passer, but yeah, he's just kind of your big guy, but he is comfortable stepping out and handling the ball and, whatever that takes to be a part of the offense. So I think that's a really important call out as well. But again, he's going to eventually, as much as he's going to stay out at the free throw line, be involved in offense, he's eventually going to want to make his way to the rim. That's where he's most comfortable. That's where he does his best work. Again, he can lean into using his footwork, using his size, using the rim again as a defender. So all those kind of little things that he does super well, he can use those best around the rim opposed to using them out on the perimeter. Defensively, it is just all about his activity. He is everywhere. This is where Bryce has to just be ecstatic. This is a perfect fit for him. We're talking steals, blocks, deflections, rebounding. He's a great rebounder. Bumps guys on cuts. He does all those kind of little things, and this guy was almost like made in a lab to play for Bryce Drew. He's going to absolutely love having him on the defensive end. And I think this is where he'll add the most value, in my opinion. Obviously, we talk about the offensive end here in a little bit, but I think this is where he's going to add the most value, is being on that defensive end. I see him kind of being a little bit of kind of that middle linebacker, if you will, a guy you can kind of anchor a defense on, less of a free safety, again, because he doesn't move. He's not out there like a guard or this smooth moving forward. A little bit more of a middle linebacker, but man, he can really control things on that end of the floor and be super, super disruptive. A guy you can really build a defense around. And when you look at some of the guys I've already brought in, it gets you pretty exciting because him alongside Henley, I mean, that's really, really crazy. So, okay, weaknesses. Listen, it's a jumper. We talked about this as well with him. And he's just not a great jump shooter. And this is not just a three-pointer, not a great jump shooter. Just in general, the three-pointer was at 31%. He took 2 a game, as we mentioned. I think, this is a real opportunity for him if he can add a reliable, I'm not talking three-pointer because, again, it's tough. That might not be his game. And again, we talk about the self-awareness. I'm just talking about adding that reliable kind of mid-range jumper, right? To force defenses to really have to guard him there and know that he can shoot that, opposed to knowing, okay, this guy's going to want to get to the rim. But when you know a guy wants to get somewhere, you can kind of guard him differently. And so I think if he can add a jumper, it's just going to be, an extra hard job for the defense to try to guard him, and keeps everyone else a little bit honest on the defensive end as well. So hopefully that jumper comes along. One thing I want to call out is the free throw percentage, 60%, not great. I've always said, again, everything I've seen and heard from the best basketball minds, they always say free throw shooting is the true indicator on whether or not you can be a great three-point shooter. For the future, obviously you can look at the three-point percentage, but I think when you look at, can a guy develop a jumper, you always look at the free throw percentage, because that's where really it's at its most basic, the jump shot is. And so that's not a great sign for him developing that three-point shot, but we will see there. Hopefully he can just add that midi jumper. Okay, next thing to call out as a weakness, big guys shooting 47% from the field, not ideal. You don't want your big guys shooting 47%. You want them up over 50. And modern bigs, I think, again, this is where he finds himself in his tweener. Modern bigs, you either kind of shoot the three and you step out and you're comfortable and you're doing stuff on the perimeter. If you're shooting, 47% as a big, so be it, because you're putting up 2, 3, 4 threes a game and you're shooting them at a decent clip, but it is going to bring that percentage down, right? Because not all your shots are at the rim, where you're obviously going to shoot better. So he's not that guy, but he's not a guy who's just back to the basket, shooting 70%. Think of Ash. I can't remember what he shot from the field, but it was insanely high, right? So you think of those two kind of camps, and he finds himself in the middle. 47% from the field as a big guy is just, you want that a little bit higher. So we'll see kind of what that turns into. Wanted to call that out as just a weakness because, again, you just don't want a big guy shooting 47% from the field. Positives. Guys, this guy is really, really strong. This is super important because Mountain West is a totally different beast than the WAC. I think we saw Utah Tech not have a guy higher than or taller than 6'7", and they were all kind of scrawny. Obviously, Utah Tech being a sub 300 KenPom team is a tough example. But Mountain West, you're going to face big guys, you're going to face strong guys. Sometimes you'll face a guy that's like Nana, size 6'8", but he's really strong like Nana. Sometimes you'll just face a straight up 6'10", 7-footer who's really talented and really strong. So having some size down low, super important. And yes, he's a little undersized from a height perspective, but he makes up for it with incredible strength. Great rebounder. We know that's going to make a big difference as the Lopes head to the Mountain West. The little things. I have to call this out one last time. No more cliches after this. I'm done. But his character, the pedigree, where he's played, and the off-the-court stuff, this absolutely matters. I think it says a lot about him and his character and who he is, and I think that should get you really, really excited if you're a Lopes fan. Last thing, and this is where I get super excited and jazzed up here. In fact, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee here. The time off that he has had. So again, he's had a full year off from playing college basketball, actually a year plus now, and that's really exciting because you can add things to your game. You can improve things, and we could be watching his film right now, not even seeing the current version of him that actually exists. Obviously, we don't know who that player is until, he gets out on the floor and runs fives. But again, that leaves you really exciting. We're talking about this commitment impact video and breaking down his game. This guy might have evolved, 2-3 levels by now. He could have that mid-range jumper we talked about. He could be passing out of double teams with ease. He could have added a little bit more size. He could maybe have a 3-point shot that he can get up to 34%, let's just say, as a big guy. You just don't know. This is where you get really, really excited. Maybe he's improved his free throw shooting. He's just spent a ton of time on his free throws during this year. So I think that's where you get super excited as a Lope fan, is knowing, yes, okay, he was, I think, 15-9 at Brown. That's great. He comes in, he's got a steal and a block. That's really good stuff. But who is he now that he's had the year off? And I think when you look at his character, that tells you he's a guy who's working his butt off, working on his game, doing everything he can to improve, obviously rehabbing that shoulder and that labrum. But I think when you talk about on the court, that's where you get really amped, has this guy added to his game? Has he leveled up? The great NBA players, they always talked about, right, in the offseason, you would add things. Kobe, LeBron, they always talk about how that offseason, you're adding one thing to your game. You're focusing on one thing and mastering that one thing each offseason. And so what has he done in his time off? We don't know, and we're going to find out really soon. And I think that's really, really exciting. And that's where you're going to hang your hat on, like, okay, we're getting this guy 15-9 from Brown, starting 4, really good player, awesome defender. But who is he now? Another year and a half older from when he last played. What has he added to his game? And that gets you really excited. So where does he fit? This is your starting 4 guys. Hands down, no questions asked. I would say him and Brian Moore are your locks right now for starting or ending the game. I think is always more important than starting the game at their respective positions, kind of regardless of what happens in the portal. I'd be shocked if those guys aren't starting at their positions. So again, Nana for me is the starting 4. Again, one thing to note with this roster, we're hoping to see some shooting, I think, come in alongside again with Nana and his shooting splits. Henley, obviously Brian Moore, great shooter. Dusty, we think that shot's in there. Wilhelm obviously can shoot it as a big guy, but maybe Caleb Shaw can step up and provide that on a Mountain West level. But being that, Nana's kind of that tweener, if they were to bring in a traditional big 5, which they hopefully will, and Nana plays alongside that guy, not a lot of shooting on the court, so hopefully they're bringing some shooting around him. But that, I think they can find that. And again, maybe Caleb Shaw steps up and is that guy on the wing who can provide that shooting. But this is a 32, 34 minute a game guy, heavily involved. To me, anchor on the defensive end. And I think the guy who's going to be most excited, even more excited than any fans right now, is Wilhelm Breidenbach, who committed to the Lopes. We talked about how much of a specific type of player he is as that kind of stretch 5. He needs a guy at the 4 who can kind of do a lot of the rebounding, the tough, the dirty work, all that sort of stuff. And he now has that guy So now he can spend more time on the floor when you have the perfect piece to fit alongside him. He's got to be super stoked because, again, Nana's going to head down there. He's going to do the dirty work. He's going to rebound. He's going to anchor the defense, and Wilhelm can kind of be that trailing big who can shoot the three, provide that spacing, in that stretch five sort of look. So an important get for the Lopes in the portal. I would say their most important get. You consider the big guy market. We've talked about it in the Discord. And just what they needed, fitting the role and everything he is and he brings to the table. This is a vital pickup for the Lopes. Very, very exciting day to be a GCU men's basketball fan, and excited to see who Nana Owusu-Anane has become in his time off and what he will be for the Lopes. So that's it for now, guys. Cheers.